The Russian Federation continuously monitors and documents facts regarding both the use and preparation for the use of chemical agents by Ukrainian armed formations in the area of the special military operation, including lists of chemical agents, crowd control chemical agents, and chemicals not included in the control lists of the Chemical Weapons Convention. Since February 2022, this information has been repeatedly disseminated in the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, OPCW, as well as in the UN Security Council and General Assembly, which indicates the large-scale use of toxic substances by the Kyiv regime, violating Ukraine's obligations under the CWTC. Additionally, provocations organized by the Kyiv regime and its Western sponsors aim to accuse the armed forces of the Russian Federation of similar activities. Despite the irrefutable information provided by the Russian side, Ukrainian armed formations continue to systematically use toxic chemicals, including chlorine, ammonia, ammonium nitrate, sulfuric acid, including those listed under Schedules E and IDA of the Chemical Weapons Convention, and chloropicrin, against the units of the armed forces of the Russian Federation, the civilian population, and officials of the civil administration. What is the reason for this? It is political patronage and actual approval of such crimes by Washington, Berlin, London, and Paris. In particular, Russian specialists have documented violations by the Kyiv regime of the provisions of the CWTC and the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs of 1961 and the Convention on Psychotropic Substances of 1971. Not to mention the regularly and deliberately created threat of an ecological disaster by the armed formations of the Kyiv regime at industrial chemical enterprises in the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics of the Russian Federation, as well as in the Sumy, Kharkiv, and Odessa regions of Ukraine. The atmosphere of absolute impunity created by the so-called collective West literally unleashes the hands of the Kyiv regime to commit more large-scale crimes involving toxic chemicals. We know for certain that the Ukrainian side, with the active assistance of Western states, plans to carry out a series of provocations in the area of the special military operation. These provocations, as they plan, will be directed against Russia, and preparations and activities aimed at falsifying evidence for further accusations against the Russian Federation of violations of the Chemical Weapons Convention during combat operations are currently being conducted. According to information from Russian competent authorities, from July to September of this year, NATO countries supplied Ukraine with more than 70 modern technical devices for detecting and recording toxic substances. Among them are the latest detectors for identifying prohibited chemicals and gas analyzers for radiation, chemical, and biological protection. Training of employees of law enforcement agencies and special services of Ukraine has been conducted based on examples from Syria and the Skripal case, as well as the so-called poisoning of Navalny. Using methods for falsifying factual materials and creating the necessary so-called evidence base, as well as procedures for submitting it to the OPCW for further accusations against Russia for violating the convention. Part of this activity by NATO countries is carried out through the Technical Secretariat of the OPCW, and, as we understand, fabricated materials allegedly related to facts near the front line will be handed over to international experts who arrive in Ukraine for the preparation of a so-called pseudo-independent report. The purpose of this entire operation and masquerade is clear. There is no such norm of international law that would stop NATO countries in their desire to achieve what they call a strategic defeat of Russia, especially when it comes to the well-practiced methods of chemical provocations under a false flag, particularly honed over the years in Syria. Moreover, facts of close cooperation between the Kyiv regime and affiliated terrorist and extremist groups from the Middle East and North Africa further convince us that this chemical terrorism is a very real threat emanating from Ukrainian special services and their satellites. It is dangerous to play with fire in order not to finally destroy the regime established since 1997 under the Chemical Weapons Convention. The Russian Federation continues to inform the international community about the violations by the Kyiv regime of the provisions of the convention and the real state of affairs in the area of the special military operation. Russian investigative agencies have documented cases of attempts to poison officials of the civil administration, the use of drones armed with toxic substances on various sections of the front line, and we have also provided materials regarding the discovery of caches containing toxic substances that could be used for committing sabotage in various regions of Russia. The Russian Federation will continue to document and inform the states parties to the Chemical Weapons Convention and members of the United Nations about the use of toxic chemicals by armed formations of the Kyiv regime against Russian servicemen and civilians, as well as about the plans of Ukrainian Nazi militants to organize provocations against chemical enterprises in Donbass. Those responsible for these and other crimes against the citizens of Russia will be identified and will face deserved and unavoidable punishment.